A few years ago, I agreed to speak at a virtual summit about my health story for the first time publicly. And it was absolutely terrifying. And that's the story I want to share today because this was the moment that changed how I think about vulnerability. And without it, I don't think I would have had the courage to even start YouTube. I feel like sometimes the most important things that we do in our lives may not feel important in the moment. They will feel terrifying and they will feel uncertain, but we do them anyway. And when we do them, something on the other side shifts us in a way that we didn't see. And I think that this was honestly one of those moments for me. So essentially, I had been asked to speak at a summit for women, and I said yes to it because I wanted to expand my public speaking skills. And that in itself already felt like a stretch and it felt uncomfortable. But where it started to get really uncomfortable was when it wasn't about chatting about my professional background or my career, my coaching. It wasn't something that I'd practiced and become an expert in. It was my health story. Um, and it was my experience with my autoimmune diagnoses, my experience with my fertility struggles, and sharing the years of navigating a body that kept surprising me over and over and over again in ways that I didn't ask for, and really sharing that relationship with others, with hundreds of women. And I remember feeling like, I don't even know if I've processed this enough myself to get in front of hundreds of women and talk about all of this. So for me, it was really terrifying. And I think in that moment, what I was most afraid of was that people would hear my story and they would judge it, or they would hear my story and they would feel sorry for me. There would be this sense of pity, this, oh, you poor thing. You must feel so alone. This must be so hard for you. And that would make me uncomfortable. And I was afraid that I maybe part of me was afraid that people would make light of it. Something that is so deeply personal to me, people may not understand and may just gloss over it with toxic positivity, or tell me to, offer solutions and say, oh, there's an easy way to fix this. And I think part of me was also afraid by sharing parts of my story that weren't polished or resolved, and somehow feeling like that would make people look at me a bit differently. That would diminish my credibility, or my likability, and it just wouldn't feel safe, essentially. So, despite having this really amazing opportunity to speak publicly, I just had this fear that opening up was dangerous and it wouldn't matter anyways. But I threw my hat over the fence and, I did it because that is what I had committed to. And I just had a feeling that on the other side, I would I would get something far greater than I could ever imagined. And I remember being absolutely terrified as I was giving this speech. But then I remember seeing messages coming in the conversation, in the conversations chat on Zoom, and people just saying that they had had similar experiences or that they'd never told anyone certain things, that they were navigating health struggles that they were hiding, and that they saw me, they understood me, and they thought I was courageous and powerful. And I even remember getting emails after the fact of people being touched by what I'd shared. And This was the greatest gift I could have ever gotten from stretching myself beyond my comfort zone. Because as a woman who had been navigating so many years of health conditions and health uncertainty, I'd never talked about how exhausting it was physically, mentally, emotionally. And standing there just receiving all of that kindness and thinking and that kindness and that validation really healed something within me, to be honest. And I think the experience taught me that vulnerability is incredibly powerful. It's, of course, it can help you build connection and grow an audience and be likable. Um, but I think more importantly, when you show up in your truth and you share your experience authentically and you just show up as who you are generous in sharing all the things you've been through, something different happens entirely. Like something completely shifts. And it's that you have given other people permission. You have given other people permission to also share parts of themselves that they've been hiding. You've helped other people feel safe and feel seen and feel understood. And you've helped other people realize that there are other people out there who are saying the things that I've been afraid to say. And they're fine. They've been okay. And in fact, I'm seeing all of this validation and all of this receptivity as they're doing this. Wow, what does that mean for me? So, this summit was a huge turning point for me. One, because of the speaking experience. Yes, that was great. But also because of what I learned about what happens when you are authentic and when you speak your truth. And I would say that I learned my story is, while my story is not, you know, perfect and fully resolved, no one's story is, that the parts of me that I wanted to hide and I wanted to clean up were actually the parts of me that resonated most and landed most deeply with others. And that's so ironic because that in the past, that was the version of me that I would have been scared to show. And when I think about it, this channel is like a continuation of that choice to just show up and to share the truth of my experience and to be me and to be authentic and to be imperfect. To not show myself as someone that has it all figured out, but to show myself as just who I am and to hope that you feel seen and you feel understood as well. So you may think that it's safer to keep your story to yourself. And in some ways, it may be because you don't risk judgment or pity or having that vulnerability hangover, but you also don't get connection. And that comes from sharing your truth. So, thank you for being here. And if you've gone this far in the video, thank you for watching. I hope that something shifts for you in listening to this.